Heyo, you're listening to Edge Coach Quip, featuring our very own Edge coaches and community, dropping knowledge nuggets to fuel your day. All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Coach Quip. You're listening to episode 108.
Today we're talking about taper. I am Coach Chris.
And I'm Coach Robyn. And we are going to start with, what the heck is taper?
Yeah, so what is taper? Taper is when we cut back our mileage and a little bit of our intensity prior to race day to let all of that fitness set in. This is when your body recovers, and it usually happens for, it depends on the distance of the race, but it can be between 2 and 4 weeks for a taper. And if we're looking at longer efforts like a marathon, like many of our listeners are training for, it's going to be in that 3 to 4 week range.
We get asked a lot of times, like, why do we taper, right? And I think it's really great to always know what the heck you're doing, right? We've said this before, but wait for it. Here it is. Fitness only actualizes through the recovery phase. Remember? Right? So because of that, we actually have to have a pretty long recovery phase in order for you to toe the line on race day and be able to use the past, 15, 16, 17, 18 weeks. Cutting back your mileage won't make you less fit, which I think a lot of people think, I'm going to lose my fitness. It's like, no, it actually makes you more fit because it's able to step off so that overload that you've been doing can actually set in.
Yeah, I think we have to emphasize that piece, right? Like, people think that if you've been increasing your mileage over the course of your 16 to 18 week plan and you went from 14 to 16 to 18 to 20 miles, right? That we should just keep going up so that the marathon...
Or keep it at 20. We hear that too.
Right.
So I can just do 20 miles the week before. Don't do that.
So that's, in theory, yes, you'd think that you just continue to climb up, but your body is in such a state of fatigue by the time you complete that peak week that you need that full amount of time to feel prepared, or for your body to feel really prepared for race day.
Cannot be said enough. I think that we have a lot of people who do fear that their fitness is going to wane during that, especially in the first 10 days, which we'll talk about, like 10 to 14 days, you might feel kind of funky, but really it's just math. We have to cut you back in order to allow you to use everything in its full potential.
Yeah, and taper is as much of a mental challenge as it can be a physical challenge in the way that our bodies feel during that time. So we're going to talk about all of that in this episode.
All right, first up, you get one tip before we get to the bonus miles, and it's a big one. It's from Coach Shauna, and we love this one, which we've already kind of alluded to. Don't add anything extra during taper. If you got through peak week successfully, chances are whatever plan you're using is working. So this is not the time to make up miles, to make up specific workouts that you might have missed. Everything that you've put in the barn is in the barn. Just leave it there. We don't need to add anything else to the barn. We just need to let the barn sit to kind of percolate until you toe the line. And a lot of people don't realize this, but we actually need your legs fresh on race day, which means running less. Let me repeat that. In order for your legs to be fresh on race day, we need you to be running less because that gives your body a chance to rebuild. And without that rebuilding, guess what? You don't get to use all of that hard-earned fitness that you've done over many months.
Yeah, the hay is in the barn.
Yeah, leave the barn alone. Don't touch the barn.
Well, we have plenty more tips for you in our bonus miles from our other coaches, things that you should be thinking about in your taper period, so stick around. All right, we are back with more tips for you during your taper process, starting off with a tip from Coach J. Rowe. So Coach J. Rowe's tip is to simply embrace the taper. You need the taper to happen in order to get to the starting line feeling good on race day, but the taper period can be pretty strange if you've never done it before. So you can expect to feel aches and pains, to feel sluggish, to feel tired, but this is your body rebuilding. So embrace it. Prioritize sleep, prioritize your nutrition, and know that in the end, all of this additional recovery is going to work on race day, so trust the process.
The pros do it. We can do it too.
We should do it, yeah.
All right, next up is Coach Matt, and I really love this one because it gives a lot of merit to why the numbers are the way they look during taper. So it's a formula, right? All plans are math. That's it. right? We build you up however many percentage week on week. Every time we have a recovery week, it's a formula to cut back. For all workouts, we are going to see week on week a reduction in weekly run volume or long run volume from 15 to 25%. We know that if we start to cut down 15 to 25%, fitness starts to set in because our overtraining will effectively not happen anymore, which is exactly where we want you. So if you are questioning if it's enough, run the math. It should be 15 to 25% cut back week on week. And guess what? You're doing it right.
Your coaches are trained in this math as a side note. And
I have an Office Depot calculator in my bag right now.
That is absolutely true. And I make fun of you for it all the time.
I love it.
But your coaches know this process, and people, even the folks who are writing plans on the internet that you could find from a magazine or from a training site, these people know the formula. And so if you follow the plan, you will see results. If you are doing your own math on this and your math is not cutting, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. So in other words, don't add stuff up and have it be more than, or less than a 15% cutback. That means that you are not cutting back enough.
All right. Our next tip is from Coach Katie. And this is a mental tip. So this is the time for you to get your mental game right. These last final weeks before race day, you've done all of the body work and now you're just recovering to get to that starting line. Now is the time where you put your efforts into that mental game. So find a mantra, think about your training, find an inspiring quote that you can use to motivate you, or just quite simply think about your why. You want to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success in the mental game. You've done those hard efforts, you've done those long runs. We want to make sure that you are prepped with the tools that you can use on race day. So if that's a mantra, a quote, your why, or a power song if you're going to be listening to music, whatever you can do to mentally get yourself to feel sharp for race day, now's a great time to do it.
Coach Katie's always really good too about physically writing things down. So if you have a mantra or you have a quote, like put it on a Post-it, put it on your mirror, or like write it and put it on the top of your journal that you carry around all the time. Put it somewhere, put it as a screensaver, put it on your home screen of your phone. Put it somewhere where you know it's going to be and you can come back to it often. All right, next up for mine, time to do your homework. I am nerdy, so get ready. So look back on your training log, whether that's handwritten like Coach Worm, or whether that's in Training Peaks, like I love it for it to exist. But look back through your training and I want you to identify 3 pivotal workouts. They can be what we call breakthrough workouts, where you had this almost like transcendent or flow state, or it can be a really hard workout where you had to really troubleshoot and overcome. Want you to list what you did well in those workouts, right? All of a sudden I didn't want my gel, and guess what? I figured out that I like the chews better, right? Whatever that is, or I was having a really tough time at mile 16 of 20. And so I started thinking about my grandma and why that was important to me, and that I'm fundraising for our Alzheimer's for ALZ team. All of those things will help you on race day. We want you to write them down so that you can put them in your metaphorical pocket and draw on them when things get hard. Because you're the type of person who troubleshoots, right? Or you're the type of person who scales your paces so that you know that you can come back and have kind of a second surge. Do your homework, write down your 3 pivotal workouts and what you did well.
All right, next up we have a tip from Coach Worm, which is that you aren't going to feel quote unquote normal during your taper period. You can expect to feel fatigued, you can expect to feel tired, and to be questioning your success on race day because of the way that you feel sluggish and tired, because it can take about 2 weeks before you start to actually recover and feel fresh and good again, which is why we have a 2-week minimum of our taper. We want to make sure that we're feeling fresh. So Coach Worm says, don't overthink it. You will have all sorts of aches and pains and things that pop up because you'll have a lot of time on your hand to be overthinking things. So we want to make sure that you know that this is a part of the process that's normal and you can expect it, but it will turn around. Very similar to Coach Worm's tip on peak week. And that's why this is a power pack of tips for peak week and taper, because they are so closely related. To have a successful taper, you want to have that successful peak week. And to actually actualize your peak week, you have to make sure that you have a very strong taper plan.
All right, next up is Coach Dan. And I like that this one is nutrition focused. So we know that we need to recover from however many weeks and months of training, right? But a big piece of this recovery process on top of sleep, which was this tip during the peak episode, just the last episode, you are more than likely going to need to focus even more so on nutrition. So here are the things that are normal during taper, right? We might feel more hungry. You might even gain a little bit of weight because really, I mean, if you're still eating a ton of carbs, your body is going to hold on to those. That's not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to race day. So chill out, right? Do not try during this time like a new diet or avoiding carbs. You need to eat the same way that you have been eating. Your body is building those energy stores. And again, when carbs are eaten in multitude, guess what? We hold on to them, which can mean that we have some extra fluids in our body. Do not freak out about that. We need to have those stores in order to be ready to toe the line on your biggest training day, i.e. race day. It doesn't mean that we should be spending a ton of time in the snack aisle, as Coach Dan says. I think he might speak from personal experience. I love chips. I'm right there with you, buddy. But instead, just focusing on what you have been doing, and then also just really whole foods, well-balanced meals throughout is going to ensure that you have the right things put in to be able to toe the line and, really rely on that nutrition to carry you through.
All right, and my tip is to not get swept up in the chatter. So a lot of times we have a lot of nervous energy in this period of time going through our taper, and I think it's really common for people to want to commiserate with other people. You have a ton of time on your hands, maybe you're sitting around in recovery boots doing some of that social recovery, and the topic of the race comes up, and people are complaining about how tired they feel, or how nervous they are, or how they feel unprepared. Don't get swept up in all of that. Just because other people feel nervous doesn't mean that you have to feel nervous. Just because other people feel sluggish doesn't mean that you have to feel sluggish. So listen to your body, listen to yourself, and know that what we say to ourselves matters, and what we say to other people matters. So this is, again, a moment where we want to frame our mind up to a very positive mindset and thinking about how excited you are for race day. Turn that anxiety or that nervous energy into excitement and visualizing success. And then we need to remember, to bring it full circle here, that fitness only actualizes through the recovery phase. So this is your time to actualize that fitness.
All right, to recap, first up, Coach Shauna, don't add anything extra. What you're doing is working. Stick to the plan.
Next up, Coach J. Rowe, embrace the taper. Know that it will be challenging.
You're probably going to have taper tantrums.
It's normal.
Next is Coach Matt. His is like, it's just math, right? So every week, cutting down 15 to 25% until you toe the line, the math works.
Coach Katie says, get your mental game right. Find that mantra, that quote that's going to drive you on race day.
Mine is to do your homework. Look back through your training log, your plan, wherever you're writing it. Find your 3 pivotal workouts and write down what you did well so you can use it on race day.
Coach Worm says, know that it's normal to feel sluggish and it will eventually flip.
Coach Dan, stick with the nutrition plan. This is the greatest time for you to have quality stuff going in, and you don't need to change anything. Don't start a new diet, have a little weight gain. That's okay. That means that you are starting to build your stores, which you are going to need when you race.
And my tip is to keep it positive. Don't get swept up in the negative self-talk or the chatter with other folks. Keep it positive and think about your success on race day.
All right, we got a couple more weeks after this, so you can just listen to this one on repeat.
It's time to ride that wave and actualize all of that fitness, everybody. Stay calm. It will be okay.
And we'll see you on race day. Later.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.